straight up.
She wasn't far from wrong.
I felt nasty in his presence. I felt like the devil was standing right in front of me, and I was staring him in the eyes.
Anything that happened to you, I know this isn't a question, but I think it's on your mind. Anything that happened to you that night, anything that happened to you from Officer Rice, from the point that him making first contact with you, coming in your home, and going hands-on with you, is nothing that Cleat or Vian Police Department has ever taught or encouraged. That is nothing that is in our training. After that event, he never worked another minute for the town of Vian. Mm-hmm. If you're going to be free with the stuff that makes you look great, you got to be just as free with the stuff that makes you look horrible.
Yeah.
You nervous?
Yeah.
Don't be. You have nothing to be nervous
So I wanted, as I told you before, that you to meet Mark. Mm-hmm. And I want to start off saying that Mark was the guy that got you released from jail and the charges dropped. Is that correct?
That's correct.
He saw the video and that he immediately, I think his investigator, Officer Kirk, saw it, called him up. He come running in and said, "Oh my gosh, we got to fix this." And so I want you to meet him because whenever I got the videos from him, he had a conversation with me and said, "Hey, this is what happened, this is what I did." And this is a rare thing. Most police chiefs are going to back their officers regardless whether they're right or wrong. And he's setting a different example of what to do in the policing world. Mm-hmm. And so you have 1,000 questions, I'm sure. He can answer everything. If he can't, I'm sure he'll work on it. But ask him whatever you want to ask him. Want to know why, how, when.
Do you want to start off that way, or do you want to kind of have me kind of give you my take, and then and then you can. You need something to write with or write on, or can you remember your question?
I can remember.
Okay. I'd gotten a call that evening from Officer Rice. He had said that Brett was in your apartment, and the apartment manager said that she could let him in. Mm-hmm. And my response to that was absolutely not. We can't do that. You're more than welcome to set up around the house if he leaves. I think the interpretation was you were at work and he was supposed to drive and pick you up. Mm-hmm. That was the interpretation. So my instructions to him was to set up and wait, stop him on a traffic stop, and arrest him that way. That was the direction that he was given. So that was the last time I spoke to him until later that night when he called me and said that you were in custody and Mr. Hooper was in custody. So my interpretation up until the very next morning when I got the phone call from Investigator Kirk was that you and Brett were arrested out of a vehicle on the roadway. Did not know that you were taken out of a house. Okay. The next morning at 6:30, I get a phone call from Investigator Kirk. Investigator Kirk comes in each morning, reviews all the cases, gets them ready for me. I will notarize them and I will send them to the appropriate, either the Sequoyah County DA or the Cherokee Nation DA, depending on where they need to go. And he has that prepared for me, so when I come in. He called me at 6:30. He comes in at 6 a.m. He called me at 6:30 and said, "You need to get here now. I don't just come in until 8 or 9. So I said, okay. So I get dressed. I come straight here. I read the report. Nobody in this department has access to the body cameras but myself. So I went in my office. I closed the door. I pulled the body cam up. Just Officer Rice's at that time. Watched it. Was absolutely horrified at what I saw. This was about 7:30. At 8:01, that's when the DA's office opens at 8 a.m. They're Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30, I think. At 8:01, I called Kelly Smith, who's the DA assistant over there, and said, Hailey Cheryl is in jail. She needs to be released immediately, and any charges that are pending dropped. I will send you the report. I will send you my reasoning why. And they said, we don't need that. As long as you say that it needs to be done, that's all we need. So I never forwarded them. They never got your probable cause affidavit. They never got your report, and they never saw any of the videos. All they needed was for me to say it needs to go away right now. They didn't ask any questions why. And so it did. That later that morning, as soon as that part was, that was my first duty was to get you out of there where you did not belong or need to be. Got you released. My second priority was to go to my supervision, my bosses above me, and say, here's what just took place. I'm starting what we call an IA, which is an internal affairs investigation. I immediately started the IA, did my investigation, my preliminary investigation, told my bosses what I thought needed to happen until I could get it all done. They agreed. So I called Officer Rice. He came by the police department. I collected his badge, his gun, and his commission card, and said that he was on paid administrative leave until further notice. Now that part right there, we kind of start trailing off into personnel stuff, and that part I legally can't get into. But that's I put him on administrative leave, and then I spent the next 48 hours doing my internal affairs investigation and submitting my findings and my request to the administrator, the police commissioner, and the town council. The way they're set up here at Vian, I do not do the hiring, nor do I do the firing. All I do is if I want to hire someone, I do my background checks, I submit it to them, and they either say yes or no. If I want to suspend somebody for 3 days, I have that authority. Anything more than 3 days or termination has to go before the council. That way my personal feelings can't be used as any kind of determination for hiring or firing someone. They have to do it and review it. At the conclusion of my internal affairs investigation, before any determination can be made, my determination was made, but before anything can be presented to the council for their determination, Robert Rice quit. Pretty common. Guys that do things like that tend to quit before they get fired. That way it looks different when they go to the next place. So at that point when he resigned, that ended my internal affairs investigation.
Under resignation.
Yeah.
So instead of just quitting, he
Resigned.
he actually resigned.
He resigned. Yes. He
with
resigned.
a written letter, and
Yes,
we'll
right.
get a copy of that here.
So that was my last contact with this case until about a week or so later, and some of Brett's family sent in a Freedom of Information request. I prepared it. There was a couple parts in those videos. I think one of them was real close to having a juvenile's face in it, and one of them you were kind of indisposed in the restroom.
Yeah.
So we sent that up to our legal attorneys to make sure that all that was okay to be released. Once that was okayed by them, I already had everything prepared and ready to go for Brett's family. About 2 weeks ago, I got another request from an individual. I don't remember the guy's name. It was over in Gore. And then shortly after that, Sean sent me his request. And I got another request today from the mayor at Gore. Those are the 4 requests that I've had for your incident.
Does the mayor want it so they can fire him?
She really can't. That's personnel, so she really can't tell me that. Here's what I'll tell you exactly what she told me. Hey, I know we're kind of getting involved late in the game, but I need that video. I said, do you need everybody's or do you just need the one of Officer Rice's? I think Officer Rice's is all I need to get done, what I need to get done. Read into that whatever you want, but that's just the straight up honest truth of our conversation.
Okay.
And that's what got us here today. Sean reached out and told me that you were, I assumed from that incident, your position, your stance, your fears, and your concerns, which are all legitimate. And I completely understand every single one of them, from the fear all the way down to the anger. Completely understand all of it. Sean thought it'd be a good idea if you and I talked. I spent the last 9 years on the Sequoyah County Domestic Violence Team. I would be absolutely horrified if you were a true victim of a crime and felt like you couldn't reach out to the police because you don't trust them enough. That would absolutely horrify me. And if we don't accomplish anything here today, I want you to know that you have the right to be a victim of a crime, and you have a right to have someone, whether it's Vian or any other agency or police officer in the world, come and be heard and taken care of appropriately. So that's my main goal here today. I'm not trying to hide anything or change anything. I want you to know that you have the right to be a victim, and we're going to take care of you however we have to as a victim. Okay? Now, the floor is yours. What?
Dang. Sorry.
It's a lot, and I know, and you don't owe me any time. There's no time crunch. There's no constraints. I've got nowhere to be. I've reserved the rest of my day for you. Okay? That's the least I could do.
Thank you. I don't even know really. I just want to know why, I don't know, how did he act whenever he came back? Like he was a big dog? Or he was the video portrays he's yeah, boys, we got him. He's proud of what he did.
That is an accurate take, because I kind of, Sean and I talked about some comments that he had made.
Yeah, he's some pretty crazy comments. Right.
It was so to speak a notch on his gun belt. That's how I took it. There's some things that I don't even think Sean knows this, but in that video, on his video, you'll hear him on the phone talking to a gentleman, and this gentleman.
That was not you.
No, that was not me.
And I knew that because I didn't think the guy had the audacity to talk to his chief.
No.
In that locker room talk.
That was a guy who put in a good word for him at Cherokee Nation.
And he is cross. What is it?
At that, yes, he's cross deputized. Yes. At that time, he was.
And y'all could really blow my windows out and flashbang me.
Yeah, that's two things. Let me explain to you on that. That was an absolute lie.
Okay.
He never spoke to anyone at Cherokee Nation that I'm aware of. That resident, the way the law is written, I think it's in 2020, Supreme Court passed the law. Brett Hooper was an invited guest at your home, not on the lease.
Yeah.
Didn't live there. There is no legal way for Cherokee Nation or any law enforcement to get a search warrant for your home
for him
to search for a third party that's not a resident there. Supreme Court was real clear on that. He was aware of that. So that was in my professional opinion, what I saw was a tactic that he was using to intimidate and manipulate you.
Yeah, do you think he started that because I was already scared?
I'm sure.
Because I just have bad past with.
I'm sure. I know
officers.
You do. I know some of your family's past. We talked about that night, and I know that is absolutely 100% true. And I think he was smart enough to sense that. And the reason I say that, again, we had no conversations, him and I, after that night. I came in here, I took his belongings, took his badge, took his gun, took his commission card, did my investigation, and we never spoke. I sat in a meeting with him and my supervisor and didn't speak. I was just sitting there, and that's when he resigned. So everything that I'm saying, this part is my opinion. I think he showed up at your door. I think he knew that you were a little bit intimidated. He knew that you were fairly young, impressionable, and I think he took advantage of that and manipulated that. And I feel that he also employed the help of the department manager.
Yeah, I don't like her.
I've got personal opinions outside of here that I don't think are professional to divulge. But what I saw was a deliberate and intentional manipulation of you two using her powers. That I don't believe she has the powers to use. That kind of teeters off into civil law when we start getting into landlord-tenant stuff. So we don't deal with that on the municipal side. But I know enough of it to know what you were being told is not true and accurate. I don't believe she or that officer had the right to enter your home at any point in time that night. And I thought you done an amazing job of holding them at bay. And I think what happened, to be just frank, is when he said, the Cherokee, and I'm trying to paraphrase him, but I'll be as close as I can. Cherokee Nation SWAT is coming here to kick in your door and blow out your windows. And I think he responded with something like, I'll see him when they get here.
Yeah.
And it pissed him off. You called his bluff, and it made him angry. And then after that, I believe his exact words were, you just go on in and I'll go behind you. And I think that's pretty accurate.
And having said that, you did an amazing job of, like Chief Harkins say, that you held him at bay. That was 3 times. They went to your door 3 separate occasions.
Did you know that at some point earlier today while you were you there or gone when the manager went into your home?
No, I was gone.
But that did happen, correct? Because she said it did. She went in and searched your home?
Oh, no, yeah, I was there. I was there for that. I thought you meant like an inspection, because that day we also had inspections.
Yeah, didn't know about any of that until after it was all over and done with. That was illegal. My interpretation of the landlord-tenant laws, again, that's civil. It's just my interpretation. 24-hour written notice.
Yeah, and I need to look at my lease for that.
Chief, would you say that there was exigent circumstances in this situation?
No.
To allow that officer in that?
No.
So all exigent circumstances were at bay.
Absolutely, they were cantered and not a factor whatsoever.
Okay.
Will he get in trouble for he's flickering his camera? You know, like it was going distorted on like black and white out of nowhere while he was.
There were, and we're going to teeter right on some personnel issues. In my determination, I noted, and I was very upfront with Sean, one event, but there were 7 different recordings. Should have just been one big long recording. Didn't really get a reason why it was stopped and started and stopped and started. Our department policy is real clear on that. My interpretation was that was a department policy violation.
He'll get in trouble for that. Or he's already.
That was mentioned in my determination and my internal affairs investigation. I had a policy violation for that use of force, and one other, and I for the life of me can't remember what it is. I'm sorry. It was the main one, the constitutional right violation, the department policy on the camera, and the use of force. And if you notice in the video at the end, he's talking and he says something about, I said taser, taser, taser. If you watch the video, he never Matter of fact, the other officer didn't even know, the female that he commanded to come in your home. There was no other officer in your home but him until he commanded that other officer to come in there and help him. She didn't have a clue what was going on. She heard his when the holsters that we carry they're plastic, and when the gun comes out, when that metal gun comes out of that plastic holster, it makes a real distinct sound.
Oh, I heard it. Yeah.
You heard it.
Mm-hmm.
So you know we're aware of what that distinct sound is too. So she heard that, and then she heard, and I apologize, I'm just going to use his words. Caitlin, get your fucking ass in here and help me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was, he commanded her. We're actually bound. She thought he was in some sort of struggle, fight, in imminent fear. She had no idea until she rounded the corner. And then if you watch the video, after he pulls the taser out, tases you, she goes to the ground. She has this shocked look on her face, and her exact words is, "Did she go hands-on with you?"
Mm-hmm.
Because she had no idea why he would have done that.
Yeah.
And I can tell you why he done that. He done it out of anger, not out of necessity.
Mm-hmm.
So you feel that was 100% retaliatory for her holding her ground from keeping him from being able to...
I believe through the totality of the circumstances,
That's how I feel on it.
that was him being mad that you, coming around the corner, didn't know what was going on in that room.
I had a instinct.
Doesn't matter. We're not talking about Brett. Don't care if you knew he was in there or not. I'm not asking. None of my business.
Oh no, not that. The guns.
But what I'm saying is when you knew something was going on in that bedroom, it's your house, which they have no right to be in.
Mm-hmm.
You go to open the door to see what's going on. You didn't know he was standing behind you. Could you see through that door?
No.
Solid door, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you open that door, he just happens to be standing in front of it, and you bump him.
What was the first thing you said after you bumped him with that door? Do you remember?
If you don't, I can tell you.
I really don't. It was either "What are you doing?" or "Stop" or something.
You apologize.
You apologized.
Oh.
You said, "I'm sorry." Instant.
Yep.
Before he was ever saying, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
You apologized. And that
actually, it was "What the F."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when he turned his attention from Mr. Hooper, who, in
Why
my
did they pull
opinion,
their guns out so quickly?
that's
He
not
was
something.
already,
That's not something that we train. That's not something that we was in a perfect scenario. Had everything been done, had they knocked on your door and you opened up and lady said, "Hey, can we come in and look for Brett?" And you said, "Absolutely, come look for him." In that scenario, when they pulled that mattress back and he drew down, I believe he was justified in doing that until he saw what he had. When he came up like this, then you holster and you take him into custody. That's what we're taught. People, hands is what kill people.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get control and you see where their hands are, then you go into that. You go into that next phase and you start your de-escalation from there. What happened, in my opinion, was if you got this guy that's, and I don't know where it came from, but if you hear on the video, he's supposed to be armed and barricaded. I don't believe he was either one of those things. So he's violating your rights because of this armed and barricaded individual that's so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, after he gets him handcuffed, he leaves him standing there by himself to come after you. To me, that's not tactics, that's anger. That's my personal opinion.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the parts of this video that I noticed that was shocking to me when I was compiling the video that I released was that he went hands-on with her, pinned her against the wall as he dictated, which is when the black out of the video, that's because his chest was against your chest, and that video was, that camera couldn't.
Yeah.
As you're backing up, apologizing.
Yeah, and so then he tased you, And so that use of force to pull a taser out, and Chief, I'm going to ask you a hard question.
Sure.
Is it Vian Police Department's policy, or any police department's policy, or do you learn this at CLEAT, to tase somebody or go to the use of force of tasers, because there's a continuum of use of force. When you get to the taser level, to cuff somebody and then you immediately release them out of cuffs to use the restroom.
Yeah.
Is that a normal thing, or is that something that's going to dictate that that was a use of force out of anger, or
he knew I couldn't run away.
Again, this is our policy. The way our policy is written, I can't give you an answer on that because that taser should have never came out. You got two officers, an unarmed person that's at minimum actively resisting, passive aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
She just wanted to know what was going on. Wasn't like she was not going to comply. It was, what's the deal here?
right?
That escalation could have been de-escalated verbally, not physically, in my opinion. But at that point, we're already so far past what's right that it didn't matter. What I think is he pulled that taser out. He did what he did, and then he thought, and I'll tell you, I'll follow this up, and I'll tell you why I think that. He thought, what have I done? Well, I'm gonna learn to use the bathroom.
But then he was bragging about it.
Yeah, and then he did what he did.
Was you able to use the bathroom at that time?
No.
I didn't think that you were able to.
Because he kept coming in the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was just staring at me the whole time. And
I mean, I know he gave you that opportunity, but didn't you have a prong stuck in your?
Yeah.
That
I
you
couldn't pull my
couldn't
pants
get your hands
down.
down
Right.
to use the bathroom.
And it was stuck through 3 different layers.
And so, with that, I've got a lot of hard questions for the chief, when we wrap up, but I want you to get all the questions out of what you want to know of this. So I'm sorry for interrupting.
Can I see what a taser gun looks like?
You want to see the one like he actually had?
Yeah. Because they yanked, I don't know what happened. I swear they yanked out wires, because there was wires in my apartment left when I came home, and then there was wires downstairs.
If you watch the video, they stay attached. So when you turn them off, you break them away, and then you're supposed to roll them up. We usually preserve those. You turn the used ones in before you get issued new ones.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that didn't happen because you found some in your house. Correct?
Yeah.
Give me just a minute. I'll show you. Hello. Mm-hmm. But this is the exact same thing. This one doesn't have a cartridge or anything in it. But this is it. And so what happens with the there's a little square cartridge that goes on the end of this. And when you flip this up, it's activated. You can actually, without the cartridge in it, you can flip it up and it powers it up, and you will get a charge between these two areas right here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called a drive stun. You can use it without shooting the prongs out. If in your case where the prongs came out, there are 2 prongs. They're designed to spread out.
Mm-hmm.
And what that does is when they spread out, it maximizes the distance of electricity that goes. The closer they are, the less that electricity travels, the less effective they are. So the wider the range, the more effective, because the more electricity that's going to flow through you.
The reason why you went stiff
Is because
it
so much.
hits your here and here. So
right.
It
was a big loop.
Yeah,
big
big loop. And that's what stunned you.
Now,
yeah.
In my opinion, in watching the video, what I saw, 2 prongs, but I believe at least when you pull that trigger, it gets a 5-second burst, is what it's called. So for 5 seconds, it's going off.
Yeah.
I believe from what I saw in the video, you got at least 2 If you pull the trigger again, you get 5 more. I believe what I saw was 2 5 seconds bursts. So I believe you got like about 10 seconds worth.
Yeah.
And
That is a long.
that's adrenaline. That's adrenaline pumping or whatnot.
I wanted to,
Yeah.
but I couldn't even stand up.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I saw is your head come this close to hitting the nightstand.
Yes, I was gonna ask you about this. So I got a lot of people asking me, why did he grab her by the ankles and pull her back? And that was because she could have literally broke her neck on that nightstand.
Mm-hmm.
If your head, when you went stiff, if you would have hit that headstand or nightstand with your head, massive damage. I mean, it was very close, but he pulled you back. I don't know why he pulled you back. Why would you do that?
I think you were to max it. Let's say, I'm going to use this. Let's say the bed was right here and you were kind of right here.
Yeah.
That was to maximize their room to get to cuff you. One from one arm, one for the other. It was just to maximize the width of their room.
One of the questions I want to ask you, Chief, and this has been from a lot of my viewers. It appeared that after she was tased, he was screaming commands at her while he was tasing her.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. I mean, is that something that not you, but is you don't? Do you give classes? You personally give classes on the use of those?
I do not. I am not.
Do they
taser
teach?
instructor.
Do they teach
you,
that?
You have to be certified to carry a taser.
Is that something that is that something they teach you in that class?
What he did?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
What they teach you is they teach you to pull the trigger, release, because if you keep the trigger down, it's going to keep sending energy. And so if you're in a heightened state of adrenaline and your finger's on the trigger and you keep getting however many thousands of volts, you're not going to be able to comply with those commands because your body will not let you. So you have to release, let that shock exit your system and give them an opportunity to comply.
Yeah, he didn't do that.
No, you weren't. I agree. Because what I saw was a continuous trigger pull for at least 2 cycles. That's my interpretation. That's my opinion. But that's what I saw. And that video.
I've never been tased before. I've been pepper sprayed, but I've never been tased. How painful is it?
I've never been tased.
I thought you had to be tased to get.
You do not. That is kind of a wives' tale. If your departmental policy requires it, you do.
So he's probably never even been tased.
Well, I don't know because he's worked for a number of agencies and I don't know what their policies are.
Right.
So I can't say yes, but I can't say no.
It don't look fun.
No, it is not.
On a scale of 1 to 100, I mean, what was it? Was it pain? How painful was that?
The prongs were painful.
Yeah.
Just the prongs going in was painful.
Yeah.
You could feel it instantly. I don't know. It's like.
And then another question that I had for you is that Vian's policy or CLEAT policy or policy of agencies. When do they remove the prongs from her?
Well,
And who can? Because they told me it was a special person, but they already yanked some out.
the officers can. In my training, in Taser training, they teach you how to remove them. And what you do is they teach you, let's say this is the skin, here's the prong. They teach you to pull the skin tight, pull and twist real quick. You got to twist and pull real quick. You don't do it real slow like a Band-Aid. It's quick. Typically, what we do, we don't have a set requirement. I prefer if someone gets tased, whether they're intoxicated, pregnant, I don't care. I want them to be looked at medically. The jail's going to require it anyway. Let's get EMS there. Let's let trained professionals do this and evaluate you, and let's let them remove the prong. That way there's no, hey, can you go around? Yeah. Let's let them do it. That way there's no that's good. We're kind of trailing off into medical stuff right
Right,
there.
right.
So I think professionals.
And I've had a couple of people indicate to me after releasing that video that, you know, the time that those prongs were stuck in her were quite long. Normally they are
That's-
pulled pretty quickly.
They are. And,
Once you're cuffed, they
typically
should
the officers that are confident in doing that. For me, it's kind of a double-edged sword. Not all scenarios are like this. Sometimes you're typically if you tase someone, you're dealing with someone that is a less lethal. So there has to be some active resistance. There has to be some aggression. There has to be some aggression there. So typically, if you got someone that has the prongs in them and they're handcuffed and they're in custody, they're pretty angry. They don't want you anywhere near them. They're going to spit. They're going to kick you. They're going to do whatever they can to get paybacks for what you just did to them. The medical personnel is typically the third party. Hey, look, man, I didn't do this to you.
Yeah.
I hate that it happened. Let me get those out of you.
Yeah.
Well, I don't hate you as bad as I hate them. So okay, go ahead and get them out of me. So that's typically why we do that, because it's just not at that point it's not a real good relationship that's been established. So to answer that question, we are trained to remove them ourselves. Typically, we just let EMS do it because, one, it teeters on a medical. They're going to need to be evaluated anyway, and two, they're typically more apt to let them go hands on and do that versus us, who's the ones that put them in there. So, does that answer? Does that help? Does that? Anything that happened to you? I know this isn't a question, but I think it's on your mind. Anything that happened to you that night, anything that happened to you from Officer Rice, from the point that him making first contact with you, coming in your home, and going hands-on with you, is nothing that Cleat or Vian Police Department has ever taught or encouraged. That is nothing that is in our training.
And hopefully you'll be able to take this incident and train your officers on what not to do.
Well, in light of this incident happening, before anybody ever requested any video, I felt that we had a severe need of training. So I tasked Investigator Kirk, myself, Captain Allen. We're all instructor certified, so we can put together classes, submit them to Cleat. If Cleat approves them, we can use them as training for all law enforcement. So we spent a lot of time and put together an 8-hour course that Cleat approved for the First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendments. And I think the title of it is the policing of free citizens. Not something that we had to do. I felt it was something that we needed to do.
Based on this incident.
Based on what I saw. Because this guy was what we call seasoned. He had 4 or 5 years under his belt. He knew the Constitution. He knew those are your basics. You know, the First, Fourth, and Fifth they drive those home pretty hard in the academy. Can I guarantee you this will never happen again? I cannot. I can guarantee you that we don't teach this, we don't promote this, we don't tolerate this, but there are people in any industry that just decide to do whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want at some point. I think I've done a pretty good job. When I came to work here 2.5 years ago, there was one officer on duty at any given time. I try to have a minimum of 2 because you have to have some accountability. You have to have that voice of reason there to say,
maybe don't do that.
This ain't right. This don't feel good. This don't seem right. We had some after action reviews with the other officers that were there. Although they didn't do anything that I dictate as policy violations or anything violating your rights, they are bound by their code of ethics to have stopped him and said, I don't care if he was a captain, a lieutenant, or the chief wearing these same stars, this ain't right. Stop. They have a duty to do that.
Sir, did they know did they know those other two officers, Jackson and Caitlin, I forget her last name. Sanders. Officer Jackson and Sanders, did they know that this was wrong?
They knew after the fact. They weren't privy to everything that was going on. Like you and I talked about, there's a section in one of those videos to where Officer Rice and the apartment manager sit in his patrol car together with no one else around. They're parked over by the county barn, and they have a private conversation.
I haven't watched the videos yet.
Okay, so
I've watched parts
of it. There is a part where they're in a car, in his police car, and they have a private conversation. Officer Sanders and Officer Jackson didn't know what was going on. They were under the same assumptions. For whatever reason, Cherokee marshals are on their way with he kept saying warrant. And then at a time or two he'd say search warrant, and then he'd say they're going to blow out your windows and kick in your door.
But it was a bench warrant, right?
Yeah, it was a simple warrant. They had a warrant for Brett. That had been out for a minute. So they were under the same impressions that I was, when I got the call. As a matter of fact, I think in the camera, in the video, you'll hear him say, that's what Jackson, Sanders, and I will do. Well, my instruction to them was to go sit up and wait for him to leave. So they weren't in the loop of what he was doing. My interpretation is because he knew it wasn't legal.
Yeah.
And so, do I think he didn't include them to protect them? Absolutely not. He didn't include them
to protect
because they knew that they knew better and would say, this ain't right. That's just my opinion. That part is. So this was a rogue action that is not trained, not authorized, not approved, and not tolerated by this department.
You think if he went to a different state, he'd get hired as a cop too?
I think he carries enough credentials, and he interviews very well. I mean, he's very knowledgeable, which is another thing that makes me so angry because
he knew better.
I know he's smart enough to know better. Do I think he could? He would have to go through some more training, like legal blocks. I got certified in Arkansas back in 1997, 1998. When I came to Oklahoma, I had to go through different training to learn the legal aspects of Oklahoma law versus Arkansas law. So if he went to another state, he would have to have some additional legal block training. So if he gets his and I don't have any control over this. This is out of my realm of control. But if someone above me was to step in and say, we've assessed this situation, and that certification that you carry, we're going to take that from you, then my answer to that question would be no. I don't believe he could be in this industry anywhere ever again, because that is one that follows you everywhere you go.
And one of the things I want to interject here is that with the video that I produced out of the body cams that are public record, that's going to follow him forever. I will never delete
Absolutely.
that. And so one of the greatest things is if Cleet doesn't pull his certifications, or the Cherokee Nation doesn't take his cross-deputization, and either one of those two things happen here in Oklahoma, he'll be rendered useless. If he's not cross-deputizable, then there's an issue with that. And so, but with that video following him through Google, through YouTube, it will always be there. And one of the greatest things that I believe that will happen with that video is, let's just say he goes to Roland, and he interviews over there, he gets the job at Roland. the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to forward that video to the chief of police and to the city council of Roland and tell them, you have this officer working for you, and in the event in a near future incident, you have him commit an act of violence against the citizen or violate their rights, this video will not, it will amplify the problem that they have. And so having that liability placed on the city up front, a city's normally not going to take on more liability. Because if just say he did the exact same thing to another person in another city, now he's got two. He's not my goal is that to get the district attorney involved, and he should absolutely take a look at this case and prosecute this. This right here was a armed robbery, if you will. It is a kidnapping at some level.
That's what I.
It's first degree burglary on two levels.
And so if the district attorney does not prosecute this, I am going to call the district attorney out, just as I called the officer out, because it is a systemic problem that the policing agency, and this is why I really enjoyed having this conversation with Chief Harkins, is because he's policing his own. And he did exactly what a police chief should do. He should investigate, look at the cause of actions that the actions that this officer performed while on duty, and make the appropriate calls. Now, he can only do so much because, like you said, the city council has to hire and fire, but he can make the recommendations. But he suspended him immediately. He pulled his gun, his badge, and his cert card, and that's all he can do. And release you from jail.
After that,
yeah, I really wish that the city council of Vian would have declined his resignation and fired him, which they have the ability to do.
You understand why that happens a lot, right?
No.
This is my first stint as chief of police, but a lot of these places, this is my interpretation, a lot of places do that because if they quit, it just kind of alleviates them from wrongful termination suits. If they come back and say, well, you didn't, you terminated me wrongly. No, you quit. That's my interpretation.
The city's going to always take the path of least resistance, the least liability, and the least liability is to let somebody quit, so they don't have unemployment to pay, they don't have wrongful termination suits.
And that's great if you're a guy on a trash truck that missed a couple houses, got drunk the night before, didn't show up to work on Monday, and didn't get the trash delivered. But here we're dealing with human lives.
So do you think that you being the chief of police of Vian and how you handled Robert Rice's, I don't want to say termination because you didn't terminate him, but his investigation and the outcome of it, do you think that has an effect on your other officers that are currently working?
Absolutely, 100%.
How?
They know that I will have their back if they're right. And they now know if they're not right, they are a man alone on an island.
Do you feel that's the way it should be in the
That's
policing
exactly
industry?
how it should be. That's exactly how it should be.
How many chief of police out there do you think operate in your same fashion?
Not enough. I think they're out there, but I think they're few and far between. They are. I don't want to use this word because I'm kind of to an extent that way, but they're company men, and I am a company man. I love this town. I love the people that I work for. My grandkids go to school here. I love everything about the town of Vian. But that's why I handled it the way I handled it, is because I love this town and I love these people. I didn't sweep nothing under the rug. I'm not going to let someone like that work here. I'm not going to let my granddaughter grow up and be 22 years old and get treated the way I saw that officer treat you on that video.
One of the things that very, very much impressed me with Chief was whenever he handed me these videos, he said, "Sean, just one thing I want you to do, and that's to take Hailey in as your daughter and look at it through through a father's eyes." And that was, I mean, it hurt to see you sit on that toilet and just tell him to get away from me. I mean, that brings tears to my eyes right now. However, let me ask you this, Chief. What keeps your officers from being biased to these citizens? How do you starve off the biasy?
Now explain
The
biases
biases of like, so an officer grows up here, he knows all the people here, he knows who's bad. How do you keep those officers from being biased amongst its citizens?
I have no one that grew up here. I have no one that lives here.
Yeah, I don't know anyone
that works here.
So you're telling me right now that not one of these officers is from Vian?
No, sir.
But yeah, so no, do you think that that's an effective tool to keep fairness amongst its citizens? Because your biggest struggle is having biased officers.
Right, biased. It is. It's a double win. One, it keeps that biasness from being there. Hey, we went to high school together, man. Give me your dope and go on. I'll get rid of it for you. We all know that goes on. Not here, because ain't nobody knows nobody here. The other flip side to that is when that officer who takes someone into custody for whatever reason, and 3 weeks later, their chances of running into them at Walmart in Muskogee is a whole lot less than it is running into them to the Walmart in Salisaw when they both live here in Vian.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have to worry about what's going to happen next week when I run into them at the dollar store.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's probably never going to happen. It works for them, and it takes that biasness. It takes the only decision that they're making is the black or white. Is it or isn't it a crime?
Right.
What's my next step? Here we don't. One of the first things that I did when I came to work here is I let them know we're going to do our job. We're going to do the unpleasant job of writing citations. The police chief is not going to fix a single ticket. One, my belief is when that ticket's written, it then belongs to the court. That ain't my ticket to dismiss. That ain't my ticket to make go away because, Billy Bob's son got a ticket. We need to get rid of that. What Billy Bob has to do is he has to go talk to the municipal judge or the city attorney. That's how they make that ticket go away. And guess what? That doesn't ever happen.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't happen because the municipal judge is not from here. The city attorney from Muskogee, he don't owe them folks nothing. You got two options: pay it or come to court and let the judge say it's going to go away.
Mm-hmm.
That's how the system is designed to work. So the biasness, which has existed, I know it's existed, is not something that I represent.
It's alive and well in many cities.
Absolutely,
Many towns around here. And this is one of the things that I would like for you to walk away from here is that they're not biased against you for this situation. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That they're not going to target.
And here's a hard thing. It's the hard thing to talk about. I'm not biased for you, which means I'm not going to. Oh, there's Hailey. Oh my God,
Let her go.
She's probably. And I'm just making stuff up. Probably, someone saw her shoplifting from the dollar store, and I'm sure she got some dope on her. Oh God, we did some bad stuff. We're just gonna leave her alone.
Mm.
We're not gonna be biased for you, and we're sure not gonna be biased against you. Oh, there's Hailey. She made us Facebook famous. She made us TikTok famous. Let's go get her for that. Never gonna happen.
How do the videos get public knowledge? Like anyone can see
Anything that we do that's recorded. Anything that we do law enforcement wise. Anything that's recorded. Public
You
has
can
a
look
right
it up
to it.
to where.
Yeah.
where
So after September 11th, 2001, I believe it was President Bush passed the Freedom of Information Act. And
It was President Bush.
And so it allowed the public to have transparency on its government.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the biggest things that I like doing is to holding its government accountable. And the sad thing with Chief Franklin, well, yeah, right, we can talk about Franklin later, but with Chief Harkins, I apologize. And again, it's drastic. Franklin over in Sallisaw, you got Harkins here in Sallisaw. Well, Franklin is the most untransparent individual I've ever seen.
He doesn't hold him accountable.
Not at all, nor that, or will he release any files or footage, or he fights everything that I do. I've got probably 15 different FOIA requests or open records requests over there, and they have not been filled yet. I come over here to Vian, and Chief Harkins fills it immediately, as fast as he could possibly get to it, which was immediate at that time because he had nothing going on, and he got him done. And so the difference between transparency with Chief Harkins and the other cities that I've dealt with is it's vastly different. And so having an individual or a chief or officers or a city council that condones transparency makes it easier for its citizens to have trust in them, because you can go in and look and see what they're doing. So if you ever want to see what an officer is doing, you can come right down here and you can fill out a piece of paper, and basically it's an Open Records Act, and I want this body cam from this officer on this day between this hour and that hour, and he'll get it for you. He has to, by law, has to give that to you, and that's public record. And so whenever and a lot of young folks don't understand that or don't know that they can do that, but you can go get the police reports, you can go get you can get a lot of things that are open records. And you can ask for everything. It's up to them whether or not they give them to you or not. And so you can ask for personnel files. They may or may not give you certain pieces and parts of those personnel files. You can ask for again, body cams, police reports, time slips, paychecks, or their pay scales. Everything that a city does, including the police force, is open records, or should be.
Correct, and it is. I mean, I think my interpretation is anything as long as it's not juvenile is fair game.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And that's the way it should be. We've got a death over in Sallisaw that I've already requested the video cameras of all the officers and the body cams, dash cams, and the back seat cameras, and they will not give it to me. And it was a death in a city vehicle, and for that, and they said it's under investigation, which I get that, but it's been almost a year now, and so that should be made available. And in the event that they don't do that, then you can actually file a lawsuit against them and take them to court, and the judge will, it's an injunctive relief. They will either say, hey, you guys got to give it up or not.
Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. Human nature. Yep. It's on both sides. We're not putting screws in a refrigerator door on a Whirlpool assembly line. We just happen to be in the business of humans. We deal with them. We deal with their emotions. We deal with their finance. You write them a ticket. You're dealing with their finances. You're dealing with their pocketbooks. You're dealing with their livelihood. So it's a very volatile situation. The human element's on our side too. And what I'm getting at by that is when Sean and these other individuals came to me and said, hey, I want this video. They didn't have to drag it out of me, mm-hmm. because one, it's the right thing to do. Two, it's the law. But in doing so, I knew as the guy that wears these on his collar, I am a direct reflection of what they do, good or bad. Mm-hmm. And it hurts to have to hand this over and say, this is not going to make us look very good at all. Mm-hmm. I love handing stuff over all the time. It's like, makes us, we're out there, helping old ladies across the street, saving animals, and, rescuing the world. That stuff's easy to hand over. It's the guys that choose to not hand over the stuff that don't make them look so good. You can't have your cake and eat it too, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. If you're going to be free with the stuff that makes you look great, you got to be just as free with the stuff that makes you look horrible. Yeah. Because one, it's the law. But two, for me, mainly, you as a victim and society as a whole in the town that I wear their pat. This belongs to the town of Vian and these residents, and I work for them. They're entitled to it and they deserve it. I'm going to protect them as much as I can and say, horrible thing happened. Here's our corrective action plan. We're trying to fix it. I hate that this thing happened. We're going to do everything that we can to ensure that it doesn't happen again. I love you, Vian. I love you, residents. I'm sorry. I failed you. I'm going to do everything I can to make you guys proud rather than make you embarrassed. And over the years, they've got a lot of embarrassment. But it's not the event at the time. It's how you handle it when it's over that makes the folks out there either proud or ashamed of you. And I want them to be proud. And I want you to be confident that you have rights as a victim before this event happened and after this event happened.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thankful that you did everything for us and stuff, like take care of it.
So going back to what the question that I asked myself earlier, can I promise you this won't happen again? No. But I don't think Salisaw PD can promise you that. I don't think Muldrow, Gore, Gans, Rowland can promise you that.
And I think where he's going with that, and let me interject here if I can.
Sure.
Is that he can't make that promise because he can't control that individual out there. But I can guarantee you,
He's not.
in the event that it does happen again, those people are gone.
Right.
He will call it for what it is. He won't cover it up. He won't sugarcoat it. He won't allow that to happen. And again, as I firmly believe that the actions that he's taken so far, not only by releasing the video to me and to the public, and that's a pretty horrific video, by the way. I mean, it's everybody that I've seen it that's contacted me said, wow, and it is what it is. You lived it. We get to see it from afar. But
I still live in that apartment too. It's
Yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of PTSD, if you will, of
and that's what I want to alleviate. I want you to know if you're doing right, you are golden. If you're doing wrong, just
It's more just the thought.
right, and it should be, and right,
happen
and that
again.
is there, and I would want you to get some sort of counseling or help with that. I hate that someone that represented what I stand for at one time caused you to have to do that. But I want to bridge that gap today. I can't fix all this up here, but I can fix some of this right here.
Yeah.
And I can put that back in your heart. I can put that feeling back in there that makes you feel a little bit of peace and tranquility. But I can't take that. I can't take those. I can't take the memories from you, and I can't take the apprehensiveness and the fears and the questions from you.
You just coming down here to talk is a big thing
Yeah.
for him also.
It's huge for me
because this gap never gets bridged amongst any. I've never seen this happen in my life.
Do you remember coming in and talking to one of the officers and getting some statement forms?
Yeah.
Why did you get those? What were you wanting?
I was just gonna put I don't want him anywhere near me, at all, as a person, not even a police officer.
I was so thrilled when you did that. I can't go out and solicit you to do that. You did. I don't know who told you to do that. Don't know my business. But I was absolutely thrilled when you came and got those, and I was hoping with everything that you would return those.
Yeah, I think it was just so new, really. Okay, yeah, I can go in there, screw them, da-da-da. And now I'm can't be out in public for more than an hour.
I get it. I understand it.
So I didn't come back with them, I'm sorry.
Have you filled them out?
Yeah, they're filled out. A whole notebook's filled out. Almost.
Bring it for him, and not not.
Can I see the like his report or whatever?
Can you what?
Don't they have to fill out like a report when
I
they?
do. I have it.
Yeah,
I can
Sean's
give
got it.
I can
It's
give
the
It'd be
exact
faster
same
to get it
copy.
from me. I'll take a picture and send it to you.
Or I can print it out for you while you sit here. Just
Oh,
whatever
okay.
you
Well,
want.
yeah, I can get a copy.
If you want one today, right now, I'll get it for you. So okay.
And hey, one thing I would like, if you can get it, is a copy of the probable cause. I have his
Yeah,
police
I think
report.
I can look those up.
Yeah, what does that mean? Like the reason to go up there?
Yes.
Yeah.
The reason, the probable cause for your arrest.
For every crime that's committed, there's certain elements that have to be met. And typically on a probable cause affidavit, not typically, on a probable cause affidavit, what you need to do is you just need to meet those elements. Show that you were there legally and meet those elements. What a lot of guys do is they'll type this big, long, huge report, then they'll copy and paste it, and judges hate that because all the judges don't want to know what Billy Bob said to Sally and what Jenny said to Susie. They just want to know, on this date at this time, inside my jurisdiction, this occurred, meeting this element, and this element. So it'll differ a little bit from the report, but it should fall very much in line with the report, just not have all the details in it. So,
Did he obviously he filled out a probable cause report?
he did.
And was it truthful?
To be 100% honest with you, Sean, I never looked at it because it never went.
Got there.
It got filled out. It got turned into that packet.
Okay.
Investigator Kirk read it, gave it to me. I said this needs to go away. It got put that report, that PC affidavit, and everything got put in the
Because I'd like to see the
in the
difference.
IA investigation file.
Okay, yeah.
But it's public record on Otis, so I can print a copy of it.
Yeah, if I could get a copy of the probable cause report, I'd like to just see the difference between his police report and then what he claimed he had probable cause for, because he had zero probable cause.
Now let me ask you: the only thing that I can't do on the probable cause affidavit is print a public copy, so it'll have your date of birth and social security numbers.
Oh,
Are
yeah.
you okay with him having that?
Oh yeah. I know.
Okay. So yeah, you want to get that now?
Yeah, I do.
Please
Yeah,
don't take my identity.
Yeah, you want a copy? You want a copy of that right now?
Yes.
All right, let me grab that for you.
Chief, I appreciate it.
Yeah, hey, I'll let her look at that, and if she's got some questions, we'll
Okay.
talk about it while she's here.
Okay,
Yeah, just give me a second.
but I'm damn sure gonna stand up.
Was
I
I?
think so.
I'm so sorry. I
Oh,
just
go ahead.
thought of this, and I don't want to forget it. Was I considered as resisting? Was I resisting arrest?
He charged you with.
I mean, like, do you
Hey,
think I was resisting?
What was the charges?
There is no probable cause affidavit. Remember why?
No.
Remember we talked about he had said that he needed the property manager to change her statement a little bit because it didn't look good.
So he never got to that.
Remember he never got the opportunity because he needed her to change her statement before he could do his probable cause. She never changed it because she never got the. I said absolutely not. We're not doing that. So she never got the opportunity. I thought I remember telling you. Remember?
Yeah, you did, and I didn't put two and two together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he couldn't do the probable cause affidavit because it wasn't in line with the statement.
Did she give a statement?
She did.
Can we have that?
I don't know if I have a copy of it. It may be in the.
I would love.
I'll get it. They're supposed to scan these into the case files, but I'll look and see. The only copy that was there, I submitted with the IA investigation.
Okay.
So I'll get it for you because
Okay. And if it's not today, that's fine.
Yeah.
I just am curious to see what she said. So you were charged with.
Let me look. Here.
Harboring a fugitive. I know that. And something on an officer. I never really looked at the charges.
So Chief, did she harbor a fugitive?
Yes, I would say technically yes. Well, hang on. Let me back up.
Because he's not. He's a visitor in a residence.
He is.
And so is that harboring?
In watching the video, what's done is done. It can't be. I'm just trying to answer Sean's question honestly. Had the officer been there and told you that he had warrants out for him, and did you know that he was wanted? Did he come and tell you that, hey, Brett's got warrants out for him? If
like just straight up, like I don't think so. He didn't. Did he come up to? I don't think he came up to my apartment at all. The manager came up first.
Okay.
And then he come up with the manager.
Yeah, just saying like, we know he's in there. He did say that. We know he's in there.
Did he tell
Someone
you that?
sent a picture in or something that he was on the property.
I think the way. Well, let's just. I'm sorry. Let's just look.
But he didn't say straight up like he has warrants. Like, hey, just to let you know.
And he didn't have a paper copy of the warrant. He just had it on his cell phone.
That is correct. He had it on his phone.
And he wouldn't let me read it. Are they supposed to let me read it?
Okay.
If I ask?
That's a good question because there's.
Because I asked.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask your question with a question.
Mm-hmm.
If it's legit, why wouldn't he?
True.
If I had a warrant and it was legit,
he's gonna give it to you, probably. And the other thing I want to point out to you guys, and Chief knows this too. If he had a search warrant for your house,
you still can't come in, huh?
No.
Yeah.
He wouldn't ask you to come in.
Oh, he just.
You would knock on the door, you would open it, and he would walk right in, slap you with the search warrant, and he's going to do his business.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's no negotiate. If they have it in the future, if they have a search warrant, and they're negotiating to let me come in, they don't have one. Does that make sense? If they tell you, I got a search warrant, or I got one coming, or, well, no.
I think that's what it was. They had it on the way.
They had it on the way is what they were saying. But he never had the search warrant.
Mm-hmm.
He never could get the search warrant. But I'm just telling you, standard procedure for these guys, and Chief hopefully can concur with this, is that if they have a warrant, they are going to knock on your door. If you open it, they're going to give you that warrant and walk in. They're not going to ask for permission. They're not going to ask you to search. They're going to do their business and get out. And if you don't answer the door and they have a search warrant, they're going to knock your door in. Do they use flashbangs? Depends on what they're searching for. A felon that's armed and dangerous, yeah.
Think about it. They'd already been there once looking for him. Cherokee Nation had. They've been in town looking for him.
Mm-hmm.
However hard they looked, I don't know. I don't believe they kicked in anybody's door, blew anybody's windows.
They didn't. That's why I was like, what makes me different?
Exactly.
And so just know in the future that if they have a warrant, they're not going to negotiate.
Yeah, I kind of figured they wasn't going to blow my windows in, but the whole time I'm like, this dude's about to kill me, like, in my door. Like,
And one of the
I'm
phrases
also
that I
scared of
really
men in
appreciated
general.
him using was, I shoot you straight. And one of the things I was going to ask you as Chief was that I have learned from creating the transparency page and dealing with the younger generation, which I'm 54 years old and, Hailey's 22. I've learned that communication with the younger generation is way different than when we grew up. I would imagine you're pretty close to age.
Yeah.
And so when you tell a young person, I'm going to shoot you straight, and they've never heard that saying before, you can construe that, and the first thing she said, so you're going to shoot me?
Yeah.
I mean, like, okay. And I don't know if you knew what that meant or if you were playing on his words, but I can assure you from my experience dealing with the young generation with the transparency page, these young guys, these young kids, and they don't know the sayings that we know. And I don't know if you tell your officers that, look, sometimes there's a communication gap between the older and the younger.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that they teach us, and he, I'm sure, was taught this as well. Typically, if someone has to tell you, I'm telling you the truth, or if someone has to tell you, I'm going to shoot you straight, or whatever paraphrase you use, but if I have to tell you that I'm telling you the truth, I'm probably not telling you the truth. So, regardless, he wasn't telling you the truth.
But that's, just the words, you went right to you're going to shoot me. And you got to realize too, and these officers need to understand that whenever when you put a citizen under stress, their cognitive ability goes out the door. They're just hearing words.
Well,
at that
when
point
you
in
get in even us on the law enforcement side,
yes.
when you get into a heightened state of fear and adrenaline,
Yep.
the two
Everything
things
is-
they teach you get tunnel vision and your hearing goes away.
Yep.
So
That's exactly.
you that doesn't just apply to us.
No.
That's human. That's humans as a whole.
No,
You
and,
know?
and that's the whole
And
thing.
here's the thing, and have I done things before where I was like, I'll say something, and when it comes out, I was like, well, that's pretty stupid, and it gets misinterpreted? Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody
And then you
does.
say, Hailey, I'm sorry, that's not what I meant. What I meant to say was, I'm going to tell you the truth. I didn't mean to say that. But he kind of,
He knew
pretty
what he was
aggressive
doing.
guy. He kind of got defensive and offended that you were offended, and kind of
It's
an
like
alpha,
we were
kind of
just
a
both going back
kind of
and
an
forth.
alpha male thing. In my opinion, this is my opinion again. I'm not in his head, so I can't tell you what he was thinking. But it was to me, it kind of became an alpha male thing. I'm not going to lose. I believe he's in there. I'm going to get in there one way or another. So it was. There was nothing that you could have said, and like Sean said, was it kind of a play on his words? If it was pretty good because it absolutely frustrated him and made him
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter.
No, and at that point, but I mean, is that I've learned that the younger generation doesn't know. I mean, it's just like, you used a term that I never heard of. The hell's a slinky link? Sneaky link. I don't know what that. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, I literally had to Google that, and it's like.
What about how they sent the manager in, and she did the walkthrough and searched the house?
Yeah, that's not.
That's not
That's
permitted.
that's a civil thing.
Yeah.
That right there is a
Oh.
violation. That's a violation of the.
On our side of that, he basically had her. My interpretation is, she might as well have had one of these uniforms on
Agency.
because he had her acting as an agent for our department. He had her doing his job. Let me ask you this: if Brett was the kind of guy, Brett's a flight kind of guy. Brett's not a fight kind of guy. If Brett was a fight kind of guy, and when she opened up that shower curtain, if he was standing there with a 6-inch butcher knife and stabbed her about 6 times,
That'd been on the city.
that would have been 1,000% on us because she was acting as a police officer. That's my interpretation. That's my opinion. If anyone asks me that, my opinion, that will never change. My opinion will never change. That he had her acting as an agent for our department. Because he knew he legally shouldn't be in there. And I think I know he knew she shouldn't be in there. He just assumed that he was going to put all the risk on her to accomplish his mission. But that's not how it works. If you notice, as she's talking to you, let's say here's your door, here's your doorway, right? Let's say this is your doorway. Well, she starts right here,
And she inches
and she starts talking to you, and by the time she's done talking, she's already 3 steps into your house
I know.
with no permission.
See, that threshold, Hailey, is all important. That's the threshold. When they cross that threshold, it's either you have permission or you don't. Even the curtilage of the house plays a part
It does.
and the curtilage is the porches and the stairwell of your apartment.
Yeah.
I'm not here to minimize anything that he did, because it was horrible. It was horrible.
He's gonna go to jail for it, right? Or no?
I can't make someone do something that they don't want to do, but my interpretation from what I saw just in that video, I haven't interviewed him, I haven't interviewed her, but my interpretation is not only were there civil rights and constitutional rights violated, I believe there were some state statutes violated on both parties, him and her. That's my interpretation.
And I do believe that the appropriate authorities have possession of all the evidence that they need to file charges against those two. And if they do that, then that's going to be up to them. Chief can't do that.
Right.
Unfortunately, I can put a lot of pressure on via the court of public opinion through my transparency page and through YouTube. And so, and I will do that. I will give you my word, if they don't press charges on this character, I will flame the DA just as bad as I flamed Mr. Rice. And I think that's fair, because that's A, transparency, but if you don't hold this cop or this individual accountable for the actions that he did against you, then why are you holding him against other people and not this when there's a bias there? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so that's the angle that I'm gonna take on it. But anyhow, I wanted you to meet Chief Harkins.
What this has done, Hailey, and we haven't talked about this yet, one thing that this has done is it has altered our vetting process and our FTO program and which field training officer of our new officers. Rather they're first day rookies or whether they're 10-year veterans, we now have a standardized protocol that they have to follow before they can be released on their own. I don't think that would have mattered in this scenario. I think whatever happened on September 25th would have happened regardless of any kind of training. This is just something that's in this person. I don't think this person is meant for this industry. I think he uses this industry to victimize and bully people. Our process is now more focused on trying to identify those kind of people and isolate those kind of people. And at the end of a 90-day evaluation, if they fit the criteria that we're looking for, great. If we believe that they're of that mentality, then they no longer work for us. And during that 90-day evaluation, they're never alone to victimize or bully anybody.
Chief, did you just implement that 90-day evaluation?
We did.
Because of this?
We did.
Because of this incident?
Because of this incident, and we're just like any other department across the country. We are just short on manpower, short on staffing. So if you find that individual that comes with a full-time plea card and a whole bunch of experience, you're going to get them in here. You're going to show them basics. You're going to show them what our city limits are, and you're going to expect them to know criminal and civil law. All they need to know is what boundaries do they get to work within, and then go do the job that you already know how to do. Not a process that should be shortchanged, but in a lot of times it was, because a lot of departments are shorthanded. There's been some times now with the folks that came in after him that if let's say that training officer is not available that day to shadow and chaperone that person, then that person don't work. To where before it's just like, man, here's the keys, you know what you're doing. I got other stuff to do. Go out there and do the job that you know how to do. Yeah. Have I seen him here at work talk to people like they are just, again, and I preface this when we first started, interviews very well, speaks very well. I think a good calling for him would be selling cars. I think he could make $1 million selling cars. But he can turn that off just as quick as he can turn that off. If he wants something from you, and that's a trait that we learn in this job. If you've got constitutional and civil rights, and I think you have something in your car, and I really want to search it, I'm not going to be a jerk to you. I'm gonna talk to you like we're friends, like we've known each other, and I'm gonna do everything that I can do to try to get you to let me into looking that car without having to go through any other proper channel. I think that's carried over into his personal life, and when he wants something, he can turn it on. But I think every once in a while those true colors come out, and those true colors were offensive to me personally. Especially if whoever was on the other end of that phone was a family member of mine.
Sir, did that affect your ability to manage him at that point in time?
it raised some questions as far as what kind of, you always wonder what kind of officer you have.
Sure.
But the one thing that you
Sure.
want to really know is what kind of human do I have?
Right.
Because that's what's gonna rear its head at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's either gonna be, I've had some guys work for me that were just the opposite. I've got a job to do, and I've got to do this job. And they're just these beautiful human beings who have bleeding hearts, who can't seem to do what they probably should,
Mm-hmm.
because they just have this human side of them that just tells them, hey, this ain't the job for me, because I can't do this job, because I know the right thing to do is to take this person to jail, and I just can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't do it. I've worked for those kind of folks. And then you have the opposite of that. I'm gonna see how many people I take to jail today.
Mm-hmm.
I worked for a department many years ago in another state, and they would work for this department in another state, and officers would make it a competition between
Mhm.
other officers.
So it's not like a quota.
No,
Okay.
that's illegal.
Mhm.
Not
I've always
anything.
heard that.
Yeah, that's illegal. Quotas are that's a taboo topic in this industry. And they mask it with other words
Sure.
like productivity.
So one of the
I need
things-
you to go out there and be productive. I need you to go out there and show me
Hustle
some
up.
numbers.
Yeah.
They mask that with other words.
And it's kind of funny because I don't know if you guys subscribe to Otis, but Otis is a program that all the tickets goes into, and I have all of Salisaw's productivity for certain officers, and I mean productivity. They literally grade them by, here's how many tickets they wrote, and I mean, we're talking very detailed. One officer will have several pages for 1 year of how many tickets, and for 14 to 15, 15 to 16 miles, and 16 to 17 miles per hour, every charge that there is. And so they do monitor absolutely 100% of that. And then they do get graded upon that at some level, and I'm not sure that that's legal, or if they will ever say that that's done, but that's what Otis does. And it's kind of a crazy thing.
And that's kind of where I was going. I make it a point to try and classify those levels, because here's what happens. I worked for a department where officers could come in and see those numbers across the board. And if Joe had 15 arrests for the month, and it's the last day of the month, and I'm sitting at 15, I want bragging rights. I want to be the top dog. Keep in mind, we're dealing with the human beings here, not refrigerator doors. But I want to be top dog and get 16. So I worked for a department where I watched guys that would take humans that were doing the right thing by, let's say they lived on the east side of this jurisdiction where I worked, and there was a bar on the west side. And they would call their buddy and say, hey man, I'm over here at this bar, I am hammered. Can you come get me? That's the right thing to do. And buddy A would come pick up buddy B. And on the way back home, buddy A may be doing 10 mile an hour over speed limit.
Mm-hmm.
Or buddy A may change lanes without using the turn signal and get stopped. I've watched officers who needed that arrest to get that stat, to get that number, to be top dog, arrest that passenger out of the passenger seat for public intox after they've done the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned me off to this industry so bad that for 10 years I switched teams and I became an investigator for the public defender's office over in Sebastian County in Arkansas, the 12th Judicial District. And I spent 10 years investigating cases from the defense standpoint. That's how bad it turned me off to this industry.
Mm-hmm.
So they're out there. Those guys are out there. And it starts off sometimes harmlessly. You know, oh man, Joe's got 12 tickets for the month. I need 3 more tickets and I'll be the top dog for the month. If I catch wind of that, or I get some sort of inkling that there's some sort of internal unspoken competition going on, it's the fastest way to get stuck on a desk. Because that is not what this industry was designed for. That is not every officer that comes to work for me signs a code of ethics, and they sign an oath of office. And nowhere in that code of ethics or nowhere in that oath of office does it say this is a game that we use with people's lives and finances to be the top dog every month. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
So, and back to your original question, the Mark Harkins side, do I think that he's a good person? No. Because of things that I've heard outside of this job. And, you know, what I know now that I didn't know then, after seeing this video, I don't think that you're a good human being and a good person, and then you put this uniform on and you become a bad one.
That's right.
So I think what I saw on September 25th is a very promising telltale sign of what I don't see in his everyday life outside of here. What I would have seen before he was here. So no, I don't believe that at all.
And professionally,
it's hard for me to answer that question. Not because it's a hard question to answer, because I think it's so personal. I don't think he's a good person. I don't think he's a good police officer. I don't think he's a good human. I don't think he's a good Christian. I don't think he is a good specimen of anything associated with law enforcement.
So you're Christian? You believe? Are y'all religious? Y'all believe in God?
That what?
Do y'all believe in God? Like, are y'all religious? Like,
Absolutely 100%.
Okay. That's where I was getting with it. I felt like there was like a demonization come over into my home that night.
I absolutely believe.
and I absolutely believe in God too.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Everyone's different.
It is
Yeah.
hard. It is hard for me sometimes in this job
Mm-hmm.
to separate those two. There are times that I really, really, really want to use this job as a platform, because I get to meet people sometimes when they're at the bottom and they can't get any lower. And it would be so easy for me to say, hey, let me just present this to you. What's it gonna hurt? It's not gonna make things any worse. But it's hard for me to do because we have to separate that, you know. We've got to separate that church and state.
Yeah.
But it would be very easy for me to use this job as a platform to minister to people.
Mm-hmm.
And the want to is absolutely there. I just have some legal obligations and duties that I can't, you know, I can't say, hey, I'm not going to write you this ticket, but because I'm not going to write you this ticket, you got to come to church with me on Sunday. Would I like to do that? Absolutely. Can I do that? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I would never do that. I would never overstep that bounds. I am very strong in my faith. If someone comes up to me and says, hey, would you do me a favor and pray for me? I don't care if I'm in uniform. I don't care if I'm, you know, in jeans and a t-shirt. I'm absolutely going to do it. I've done it sitting in this very room with people that's asked me to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't force it upon them, but if that's the direction they want to go, I will open that door and visit it for as long as they want to. I am the first and only that I know of officer or chief for the town of Vian that employs a a pastor on staff. I have a chaplain here at this police department.
One thing I will inject here, and again, I really haven't talked to you about this, but you claimed whenever you were tased, you thought you were pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that the officer, Rice, did that really disturbed me and a lot of other people is that in the event that you were not pregnant, he was going to file another charge on you for thinking that you were pregnant.
Yeah.
And you have every right, in my opinion, to think that you're pregnant. You know your body better than anybody, and if you think that that's what it is, for him to file another charge because you're not pregnant, what's your thoughts on that, Chief?
I don't know. I can't put myself in his head.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what statute or what law he anticipated you in violation of by doing that. Again, I don't know where that would have been. I don't know where that would have came. I'll tell you this: it would have not held up in any court in the nation.
But since we're talking about religion and character, that told me everything I needed to see about Robert Rice's character when she's claiming, I could be pregnant. Whether she knew or not knew, obviously she's not gonna, it's just like whenever she bumped him with the door, she immediately said, I'm sorry. She immediately said, I'm pregnant. And if you thought you were pregnant at that point in time, I mean, every young woman in the world that I've known has always had, I don't know if I'm pregnant or not, at some point in time in their life, and that happens. And to file another charge on them because they don't know if they're pregnant or not.
Conspiracy to be pregnant.
Yeah, it tells me a lot about that guy's character that he didn't give to. He was hoping she wasn't pregnant so she could file more charges on her.
Sean,
And it blows my mind when it comes to the character of a police officer to even think that way.
let me flip the script on that. Let me ask you the same question. Do you think he's a good person?
I think he's nasty.
Why?
He's a dirty person. The way he was looking at me in my eyes. I look at someone's soul. That's just how I am. I look at their body language or like the way they treat me, the way they talk to me. Immediately I was like, no, you're not coming to my house. You're going to shoot me. You're going to kill me. I see it in your eyes. Just straight up.
She wasn't far from wrong.
I felt nasty in his presence. I felt like the devil was standing right in front of me. And I was staring him in the eyes